The morning sun was bright over New York City when the alien ship arrived. It was big and dark, sitting in the sky like a black cloud. People on the street stopped and pointed. Some took pictures with their phones. Others just stood there with their mouths open. Inside the United Nations building, things were different. The world leaders were not scared. They were curious. Commander Zax was tall, maybe 8 feet. His skin was green and bumpy, like a lizard. He had 4 arms and yellow, eyes that glowed in the light. When he spoke, a small machine on his chest made the words into English. "I am Commander Zax of the Galactic Empire," he said in a deep voice. "We rule 1 million worlds across the stars. We have come to give you one chance." The human leaders sat at a long table. President Ben Clark was in the middle. General Mike. Roger sat to his right. Dr. Kate Wilson, the space scientist, was on his left. There were 20 other important people from different countries. "What kind of chance?" President Clark asked. He did not look worried. Commander Zax stood up straighter. His yellow eyes got brighter. "You have 30 days to give up. Join our empire. Work for us. Give us your resources. If you say no, we will destroy your planet." The room was quiet for a moment. Then something unexpected happened. General Rogers started to laugh. It was a small chuckle at first, then it got louder. Dr. Wilson covered her mouth, but she was smiling. President Clark rubbed his chin and grinned. "Did I say something funny?" Commander Zax asked. His voice sounded confused. "Oh, I'm sorry," General Rogers said, still smiling. "It's just that you came all this way to threaten us with one ship. That's pretty brave." Commander Zax's skin turned darker green. "One ship? This vessel can destroy cities. We have conquered thousands of worlds with ships like this." Dr. Wilson leaned forward. "How many ships does your empire have?" 40,000 warships protect our territories," Zax said proudly. 40,000, she repeated slowly. "And how many people live in your empire?" 500 billion across, 800 worlds. The humans looked at each other. Some of them were trying not to smile. President Clark stood up. "Commander, before you make any big decisions, maybe you should learn more about Earth." "What is there to learn?" Zax asked. "We scanned your world. You use primitive technology. You fight among yourselves. You are weak." General Rogers walked to the big window that looked out over the city. "Tell me, Commander, what do you see out there?" Commander Zax joined him at the window. Below them, New York City was busy with life. Cars moved through the streets, people walked on sidewalks, buildings reached up toward the sky. "I see a primitive city," Zax said. "Look up," Rogers said. Commander Zax looked up at the sky. His alien ship was still there, big and dark. But now, he noticed something else. The sky was full of small dots. They were moving in patterns around his ship. "What are those?" he asked. "Those are our defense drones," Dr. Wilson said from behind them. "About 10,000 of them. They've been watching your ship since you arrived." Commander Zax's eyes got wider. "Impossible, our sensors would have detected them." "Your sensors are pretty good," General Rogers agreed. "But they're looking for big ships with metal hulls. Our drones are small and made from materials your technology can't see." President Clark joined them at the window. "Commander, you said you scanned our world. What did your scans tell you about our population?" 7 billion humans live on this planet," Zax answered. 7 billion on Earth, yes, Clark nodded. "But that's not all of us." Dr. Wilson pressed a button on her tablet. The window became like a computer screen, showing images of space. Commander Zax saw things that made his yellow eyes go very wide. The first image showed the moon. But it was not the dead rock his empire had seen from far away. The moon was covered with cities. Lights sparkled across its surface like stars. 3 billion humans live on Luna, Dr. Wilson explained. The next image showed Mars. It was red, but it also had green areas and blue lakes. Cities dotted the landscape. 4 billion on Mars, she continued. More images followed. Space stations around Jupiter that were bigger than cities. Asteroid mines with millions of workers. Ships moving between the planets like fish in the ocean. In Total, Commander, about 50 billion humans live in this solar system, President Clark said calmly. Commander Zack stepped back from the window. His skin was now very pale green. That cannot be correct. Our long-range scans showed only primitive radio signals from Earth. General Rogers laughed again. Oh, those old radio signals? We keep those running for fun. Most of our real communication happens instantly across space using quantum technology. Quantum, Zax whispered. Dr. Wilson nodded. We've been using faster-than-light communication for about 100 years now. We also have faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, and defensive shields, but we don't like to show off. Commander Zax looked around the room at all the human faces. They were not scared. They were not angry. They looked almost amused. How long have you known about our empire? He asked quietly. About 50 years, President Clark answered. We've been watching you expand across the galaxy. We were wondering when you'd notice us. Why didn't you contact us before? General Rogers shrugged. We wanted to see what you were like first. Whether you were friendly, neighbors, or bullies who attacked weaker species. Commander Zax realized he had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not primitive, they were not weak. They had been studying his empire for decades, and he had walked into their home and threatened them. What happens now? He asked. President, Clark smiled. It was not a mean smile. It was the kind of smile a teacher gives to a student who finally understands a difficult lesson. Now, Commander, we talk. The meeting room changed. The walls became like giant computer screens. Commander Zack stepped back as images filled the air around him. He had never seen human technology like this before. Dr. Wilson touched her tablet, and the room filled with a map of the solar system. But it was not the empty solar system that Zax's empire had seen from far away. This solar system was full of life. Let me show you the real numbers, Commander, Dr. Wilson said with a smile. The image of Earth appeared. First, it was blue and green and beautiful, but around it Zax could see thousands of small lights moving in circles. Earth has 7 billion people, like you said, Dr. Wilson began. But we also have 12,000 space stations orbiting our planet. Each station has about 50,000 people living and working there. Commander Zax did the math in his head. That was 600 million more humans just floating around Earth. The image moved to show the moon. Zax had thought it was just a dead rock, but now he could see it was covered with dome-shaped cities that glowed with light. Luna City is our biggest moon colony, explained General Rogers. 3 billion people live there. They mine rare metals and build our spacecraft. 3 billion, Zax whispered. That was more people than lived on most planets in his empire. The picture changed to show Mars. Zax knew Mars was a red, dead planet. But in this image, Mars had blue oceans and green forests. Cities spread across continents that should not exist. We started terraforming Mars 200 years ago, Dr. Wilson continued. Now 4 billion humans call it home. The weather is nice there, not too hot, not too cold. Commander Zax felt dizzy. Terraforming? You changed an entire planet? It was not that hard, President Clark said. We melted the ice caps, thickened the atmosphere, and brought in plants and animals from Earth. It took about 50 years. The images kept coming. Jupiter's moons were covered with cities under protective domes. Saturn had giant rings made not of ice and rock, but of space habitats where millions of people lived and worked. The asteroid belt is where we do most of our mining, General Rogers explained. About 2 billion people work out there digging up metals and building materials. Admiral Steve Hayes stepped forward. He was the head of the Space Navy. His uniform was covered with medals and insignia that meant nothing to Zax, but looked very official. Commander, would you like to know about our fleet? Admiral Hayes asked politely. Zax nodded, though he was not sure he wanted to hear the answer. We have about 600,000 ships of various sizes, Hayes said casually, like he was talking about the weather. Most of them are cargo ships and passenger transports, but about 100,000 are military vessels. 100,000? Zax's voice cracked. Our main battleships are quite impressive, Hayes continued. Each one can destroy a small moon if needed. We also have fighter craft, scout ships, and special operations vessels that can travel anywhere in the galaxy without being detected. Dr. Wilson touched her tablet again. The room filled with images of human ships. They were sleek and powerful looking. Some were as big as cities. Others were small and fast. All of them looked more advanced than anything in Zax's empire. How is this possible? Zax asked. Our scouts have been watching this system for years. They reported only primitive technology. Dr. Kate Miller from the Intelligence Division smiled. Your scouts are very good, Commander, but they were only seeing what we wanted them to see. What do you mean? We knew you were watching us, Miller explained. So we hid our real technology and let you see old radio and television signals. We wanted you to think we were primitive. Why? President Clark stood up and walked over to Zax. Even though the alien was much taller, Clark did not seem intimidated. Because we wanted to see what kind of people you were, Clark said. If you came in peace, we would have shown you our real civilization and offered friendship, but you came with threats and demands. We have dealt with bullies before, General, Rogers added. Sometimes the best way to handle a bully is to let them think they are stronger than you. Then, when they try to push you around, you show them how wrong they were. Commander Zax looked around the room at all the human faces. They were not angry or mean. They looked almost sad, like parents who had caught their child doing something wrong. We have been expanding across the galaxy for 300 years, Dr. Wilson said gently. We have colonies in 47 star systems. We have met 17 other alien species, and we are friends with all of them. Friends? Zax asked. We trade with them, share technology, and learn from each other, President Clark explained. It is much better than conquering and enslaving people. But your empire chose a different path, Admiral Hayes said. You chose to be conquerors. That makes things complicated. Commander Zax realized that his mighty empire, which he had thought was the strongest force in the galaxy, was actually just a small neighborhood gang compared to humanity. What do you want from us? He asked quietly. President Clark smiled. That is a very good question, Commander. What we want might surprise you. Colonel Tom Carter walked to the big window and looked up at Commander Zax's ship. It was still floating in the sky above New York, big and dark and threatening. At least it had looked threatening an hour ago. Commander, can you contact your ship? Colonel Carter asked. Zax touched a device on his wrist. Captain Vorg, this is Commander Zax. Report status. A worried voice came from the device. Commander, we have a problem. Our sensors are showing impossible readings. What kind of readings? Sir, we are surrounded by thousands of enemy vessels. They appeared from nowhere. We are completely trapped. Commander Zax looked at the humans in confusion. That cannot be right. I can see your sky. There are no ships. Dr. Wilson smiled and pressed a button on her tablet. Computer decloak all defensive units around the alien vessel. The sky above New York suddenly changed. What had been empty blue sky was now filled with human ships. They were everywhere. Big ships, small ships, medium ships. Some looked like metal whales. Others looked like flying triangles. All of them had weapons pointed at Zax's ship. Commander Zax stumbled backward. His yellow eyes were huge with shock. Where did they come from? They have been there the whole time, Colonel Carter explained. We have something called stealth technology. It makes our ships invisible to most sensors. All of our military ships have stealth systems. Admiral Hayes added. It is standard equipment. We learned about invisible ships from our old science fiction movies. Captain Rob Lee was the pilot of the biggest ship floating above them. His voice came through the room's speakers. Commander Zax, this is Captain Lee of the battleship New York. My ship is currently 3 miles directly above your vessel. We have been watching you since you entered our solar system. Zax looked up, but he could not see anything that big above them. Show him, Captain, President Clark said. Suddenly a shadow fell across the city. Commander Zax looked up and saw the bottom of a ship that was larger than several city blocks. It was so big that it blocked out the sun. Weapons that could destroy Planets hung from its hull like decorations. "How big is that ship?" Zax whispered. "The New York is about 2 miles long and half a mile wide," Captain Lee answered. "It carries a crew of 50,000 people. It also has 500 fighter ships inside it." 500? "Each fighter ship is faster and more powerful than your main vessel," Admiral Hayes said calmly. "And we have about 10,000 ships. Just like the New York." Dr. Wilson was still playing with her tablet. "Commander, would you like to see our weapons technology?" Before Zax could answer, she pointed the tablet at a coffee cup on the table. A thin beam of light came from the tablet and hit the cup. The cup did not explode or burn. It simply stopped being a cup. The atoms that had made up the cup scattered like dust in the wind. "That was a molecular disruptor," Dr. Wilson explained. "It makes matter forget how to stick together. We can do the same thing to ships, buildings, or even asteroids." "Commander," Zax stared at the empty space where the coffee cup had been. "You have weapons that can destroy matter itself?" "That is just a small personal weapon," General Rogers said. "Our ship-mounted weapons are much more powerful. We can make entire moons disappear if we need to." Colonel Carter touched his earpiece. "Commander, I am getting reports from around the world. It seems your empire has sent ships to threaten other human colonies." "Yes," Zax said quietly. "Standard procedure when dealing with primitive species." "Well, I have some updates for you," Carter continued. "Your ship at Mars was surrounded by our home fleet within 10 minutes of its arrival. Your ship at Luna found itself inside our asteroid mining field, where it is currently being examined by about 1,000 mining drones. And your ship that went to Jupiter has discovered that what it thought was an empty gas giant is actually home to our largest military base." Each piece of news made Commander Zax look more worried. "Oh, and the ship you sent to our outer colonies," Carter added. "It never made it there. We intercepted it about halfway and invited the crew to visit one of our research stations. They are currently learning about human technology, voluntarily, of course." President Clark walked over to stand in front of Zax. Even though the alien was much taller, Clark looked completely confident. "Commander, your empire has been expanding across the galaxy for thousands of years. You have conquered many worlds and enslaved many species. But you have never met anyone like us before." "What makes humans so different?" Zax asked. "We prepare for everything," Clark answered. "For 300 years we have been getting ready for the day when someone would try to conquer us. We studied every possible scenario. We built weapons for every situation. We trained for every kind of war." Dr. Miller from Intelligence stepped forward. "We have been watching your empire for 50 years, Commander. We know about every ship you have, every weapon you carry, and every planet you control. We know your technology better than you do. We even know about the rebellion on your 4th planet," General Rogers added with a grin. "The one your government has been trying to hide." Commander Zax's skin turned white. That rebellion was the Empire's most closely guarded secret. "The truth is, Commander," President Clark continued, "we could have destroyed your entire empire years ago if we had wanted to. But we do not want to be conquerors. We prefer to be builders and explorers and teachers." "Then why are you showing me all this?" Zax asked. "Because you need to understand something very important," Clark said. "When you threatened to destroy Earth, you made the biggest mistake in your empire's history. Not because we will hurt you for it, but because you missed the chance to make the greatest allies you could ever have." Admiral Hayes stepped up beside the president. "We could teach your people technology that would advance your civilization by 1,000 years. We could show you medical knowledge that would double your lifespans. We could help you explore parts of the galaxy you have never seen. But first," President Clark said, "you need to go home and tell your emperor that the age of conquest is over. It is time to learn a new way." 3 days later, the biggest ship in the Galactic Empire received a message that changed everything. Emperor Krex sat on his throne on the capital world of Zentara, surrounded by his advisors and generals. The message came from Commander Zax, but it was not what anyone expected. "Your Imperial Majesty," Zax's voice came through the communication device, "I must report that our mission to Earth has failed, but not in the way you might think. Emperor Krex was used to getting reports about successful conquests. His empire had never failed to defeat a primitive world before. Explain this failure, Commander. Sir, the humans are not primitive. They are the most advanced species we have ever encountered. They have been watching our empire for 50 years. They know everything about us. The throne room fell silent. General Mach, the Emperor's chief military advisor, stepped forward. Commander, have you been captured? Are you being forced to say these things? No, General, I am speaking freely. The humans could have destroyed our entire fleet, but they chose not to. They want to talk. Emperor Krex felt something he had not felt in many years, confusion. Talk about what? They want to be our friends, Your Majesty. 2 hours later, a human ship appeared in orbit around Zentara. But it did not come alone. The ship seemed to exist in several places at once, flickering in and out of reality like a ghost. The Empire's most advanced sensors could barely detect it. Ambassador Bill Green stepped out of the ship and into the Emperor's palace. He was tall for a human, but still much shorter than most of the aliens around him. He wore a simple blue uniform and carried no weapons. Behind him walked Dr. Sarah Jones, a scientist, and Captain Nick Adams, a military officer. Your Imperial Majesty, Ambassador Green said with a respectful bow. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Emperor Krex studied the human carefully. This small, weak-looking creature represented a species that could apparently destroy his entire empire. It was hard to believe. Commander Zax tells me impossible things about your people, the Emperor said. He claims you have millions of ships and technology beyond our understanding. Commander Zax is a good officer, Green replied. He reported the truth, but we did not come here to threaten you. We came to offer you something better. What could you possibly offer us? Dr. Jones stepped forward and placed a small device on the floor. Light came from the device and filled the air with images. The first image showed a human city on a distant world. The buildings reached toward the sky like crystal towers. Flying vehicles moved through the air without making any sound. This is one of our newer colonies, Dr. Jones explained. The people there live for about 300 years on average. Disease has been eliminated. Everyone has enough food, clean water, and comfortable homes. The next image showed human ships moving through space faster than anything the Empire had ever seen. Our latest ships can cross the galaxy in a few days, Captain Adams said. We have mapped star systems that your empire has never found. We know about resources and planets that could make your people rich beyond imagination. Emperor Krex leaned forward on his throne. Why would you share these things with us? We came to conquer you. Ambassador Green smiled. It was a kind smile, not the cruel smile of a conqueror. Because, Your Majesty, we have learned something important in our travels across the galaxy. Life is better when people work together instead of fighting each other. But we are enemies, General Mach said. We threatened your world. You made a mistake, Green agreed. But people can learn from their mistakes. We would rather teach you than destroy you. Dr. Jones activated her device again. This time, the images showed human scientists working alongside aliens from other species. They were building things together, sharing knowledge, and solving problems. We have made friends with 16 other alien species, Dr. Jones explained. Each one teaches us something new. Each one learns something from us. Together we are all stronger and wiser. What do you want from us? Emperor Krex asked. We want you to stop conquering other worlds, Ambassador Green said simply. We want you to free the species you have enslaved. And we want you to join us in exploring the galaxy as partners instead of enemies. And if we refuse? Captain Adams spoke for the first time. His voice was calm but firm. Then we will stop you ourselves. We will free every world you have conquered. We will protect every species you threaten, but we would rather not do that. Why? Because war is wasteful, Green explained. It destroys things that take years to build. It kills people who could have lived long, happy lives. It prevents us from learning from each other. Emperor Krex looked around at his advisors. They all looked confused and worried. For thousands of years, the Empire had grown through conquest and fear. The idea of growing through friendship was completely new. How do we know you will not betray us? the Emperor asked. You don't, Green admitted. Trust takes time to build. But we can start small. Let us help you solve one problem and you can see how we work. What kind of problem? Dr. Jones smiled. Commander Zax mentioned that you have a rebellion on your fourth planet. The rebels are fighting because they want freedom and better living conditions. Instead of fighting them, what if we helped you give them what they want? You know about our internal problems? We know about many things, Captain Adams said, but we are not here to embarrass you. We are here to help you find better solutions. 3 months later, the rebellion on the fourth planet ended without a single shot being fired. Human advisors had helped the Empire understand why the rebels were fighting and how to address their concerns. The planet became a model for how to govern fairly and peacefully. 6 months later, the first joint human-Empire exploration ship launched toward an unknown region of the galaxy. The crew was half human and half alien, working together to map new worlds and make contact with new species. 1 year later, Emperor Krex stood in his throne room and looked at a new map of the galaxy. The Galactic Empire was no longer an empire of conquest. It had become an empire of cooperation, learning, and growth. Commander Zax, who had started this whole adventure with threats and demands, now served as the first alien officer in the Human Space Academy. He often told his students that the day the humans laughed at his threats was the day he learned what real strength meant. Real strength, he would say, is not the power to destroy your enemies. Real strength is the wisdom to turn your enemies into friends. And across the galaxy, former enemies worked together to build something better than either could have achieved alone.